Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Daryl Demerit. On behalf of the pastors and our Board of Trustees, we welcome you to Colby Memorial Temple for our Sunday service. To begin our service, Kim Pasquarello will light 3 lights, symbolizing the unity of body, mind, and spirit. Thank you. Please rise as you are able for our opening prayer and remain standing for our first hymn. Infinite Spirit, we thank you for bringing us here to Colby Temple this morning so that we may gather with each other and those who are with us from the spirit side of life. We ask that you open our hearts and minds so that we may enjoy the warm, loving energy around us and be inspired by words and song as we share our time together today. Amen. Our first hymn, number 174 in your hymnal, is Wonderful Words of Life, and it will be led by our vocalist, Jamie Osmond.
Is the volume up? Oh, give me just a second. Wonderful words of love, wonderful words of love. Wonderful words of love. Jesus, wonderful words of love. Wonderful words of love. Thank you. You may be seated.
Located on the handout and in the front cover of the hymnal are our Declaration of Principles. Please join with me in reciting these principles together. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expressions of infinite intelligence. We affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. We affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the golden rule. Whatsoever ye would that others should do unto you, do ye also unto them. We affirm the moral responsibility of the individual and that he makes his own happiness or unhappiness as he obeys or disobeys nature's physical and spiritual laws. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any human soul, here or hereafter. We affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing contained in the Bible are divine attributes proven through mediumship. The healing prayer is located in the back of your hymnal. Please recite with me this prayer for spiritual healing. I ask the great unseen healing force to remove all obstructions from my body and to restore me to perfect health. I ask this in all sincerity and honesty, and I will do my part. I ask this great unseen healing force to help both present and absent ones who are in need of help and to restore them to perfect health. I put my trust in the love and power of God. Now, for those of you who would wish to receive spiritual healing, please take a seat along the wall on the side of the temple and go to the next available healer. While the healers work, the rest of us will join in a guided meditation. In a sitting position, take a deep breath, exhale, and get in a relaxed position as you are able, with your feet on the floor and your hands in your lap, palms facing directly up or down. Now take another deep breath and exhale while letting your shoulders and upper arms relax. Now make sure that you are sitting as upright as is comfortable for you, and relax your back. Be aware of your upper legs and relax them. Now your lower legs. Wiggle your toes softly and then relax them comfortably. As you take another deep breath and exhale, become aware of your breath, but don't try to control it. Let it happen naturally. Now imagine that you are walking through an open, grassy field. Let your senses be heightened as you smell the fresh air. And notice the bright green color of the grass below and ahead of you. As you walk across the field, you can see that you are approaching the tree line to what looks like a forest up ahead. Notice that the trees are lined up next to each other, like an inviting wall, waiting for you to walk through and enter. As you get closer, you see what appears to be an opening in the trees that opens into a trail, a narrow path barely wide enough for you and another person to walk. Now enter the forest and start walking down the trail. As you look to the side along the path, you notice the small green plants and colorful flowers all alongside of your walkway. And as you look ahead, you see that the trail gives you a peaceful feeling of a gently meandering path. Follow the winding path, clearing your mind of all thoughts other than the beauty that you notice around you, the green of the leaves, the color of the flowers on the side of the trail. And you notice the random formation of the pebbles below your feet in the path you are walking. If you should feel the loving presence of someone walking with you, welcome them. As you look ahead of you, you can see that the trail is opening to a small body of water. At the bank of the pond, you see that there is a bench that has been placed so that you can sit and look out into the water. Sit there and listen and absorb the sounds. Hear the chirping of the crickets. Listen for the sound of a bird flying over the pond. Listen even more closely, and you can hear the gentle, subtle sounds of wildlife in the woods. I will let you sit here for a bit, enjoying the sight and sounds. Feel your connection to nature and the ground and the earth. Feel part of it. Now look in the distance across the water towards the other side. Imagine that you see a beautiful white light in the distance and that it seems to be slowly coming closer to you. As you watch it, you feel an increasing connection to it. And as it comes even closer, it starts to come into focus. And you begin to sense that it is a spiritual energy that is familiar to you. Maybe it's a loved one who has passed. Maybe it is a spirit guide. Maybe it is a spiritual energy that you don't recognize, other than to know it feels pleasant, positive, and welcoming. Invite this beautiful energy to sit next to you on the bench. As you sit there and feel the loving energy around you, you sense that the presence is familiar to you and that has brought a gift for you. Maybe it is a symbol. Maybe it is a word or a thought. Maybe their gift is of the earth, a stone, a crystal, a flower. Or maybe you recognize them as a loved one in spirit who simply brings you the gift of their presence and a loving greeting from the spirit side of life. I'm going to leave you for a brief time in quiet, alone with this warm, loving presence, so that you can receive the gift that they have brought to you. Now continue to hold their gift in your hand or in your heart. Thank them for being with you and for their loving gesture as they stand and start to walk away. Watch them move back across the pond until all you see is the bright white light in a distance, until it gradually fades away. Now take a deep breath, smelling the freshness of nature. Exhale, releasing any remaining stress, and take another deep breath. Know that you are in a special place that you can come to whenever you want, whenever you feel the need to get away from things, to relax, and to receive the offerings and guidance that the universe has for you. I'm going to leave you here for just another minute so that you can remember this experience and so that you'll be able to recreate it whenever you like. We're now going to get ready to return back to where we came from. Continue back down the path until you see the opening, which leads out into the beautiful open field where you started. As you walk out into this field, you realize that the world around you is a beautiful place, and you can return to this place in your mind whenever you feel the need for the comfort and healing that it will provide. Now thank the universe, infinite intelligence, your God, for the beauty around you. Take a deep breath and exhale, and begin to sense that you are back here in the temple. With your eyes closed, think about this amazing gift or message from Spirit that you have brought with you. I'm going to let you sit for another minute or two and think about the special gift and what it means to you. It is yours to take with you when you leave here today. Let's begin to return to our awareness. Gently move your fingers and your toes. Move your head slightly to feel your neck muscle stretch. Take another deep breath and slowly open your eyes and return to the awareness that you are here and now in Colby Temple. And let's sit for another moment in silence as our healers continue their work. If you have received a healing resulting in a correction or improvement, please complete the yellow card that is located in your hymnal and give it to the pastor at the back of the temple, or you may mail the card into us. It looks like this. You may also place the card in the collection plate. We'd like to thank our healers for sharing their gift of healing this morning. Our healers this morning from left to right are Darlene McCormick and Reverend Dr. Sheldon Gamberg. Please stand for our next hymn as you are able. Number 4 in the hymnal, For the Beauty of Earth.
For the beauty of the skies, for all the rain around us lies, these are his grateful praise, for the beauty of the day and of the night, in the night and stars of light. These are his grateful praise, for the joy of brother, sister, parent, child, friends on every, for all gentle thoughts and mild, these are his grateful praise, for victims on the hands above, breathe out the pure sacrifice of love. These are his grateful praise. Thank you. You may be seated.
I'm now honored to introduce this morning's speaker. Reverend Jerry Moore is a longtime member of Southern Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp. He is a certified medium and is the president of our board of trustees. We are grateful for all of Reverend Jerry's hard work and his dedication to our organization and its current and future well-being. Please join me with a warm welcome for Reverend Jerry.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kate.
Wow, that's impressive. So, I'd like to welcome everybody. Did you hear this week there was an announcement about the Powerball lottery? It turns out that there was someone out in California that won $1.7 billion. I've heard that's a lot of money. So it got me to thinking, what would you do with that much money? Because it's way more than most of us would ever spend on ourselves in a lifetime. Would you party like a rock star? Would you give it all to family and friends and charity? SCSCMA comes to mind. Always got to put the plug in, right? Maybe you already know what you would do because you've already thought about it and you already came up with a plan. because just in case. For most of us, it's fun to speculate on these kinds of things, to consider what it would be like to have essentially unlimited resources, to wonder what you would do with such a huge gift falling in your lap. For most of us, we think in terms of being limited by three things: money, time, and energy. Winning the jackpot would certainly take care of that first item. But what about the other two? In my own experience, the closest analog I have to having unlimited time and energy was when I was a teenager and trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life. I remember when I was in high school, my parents certainly weighed in on that topic. It was the usual list, doctor, lawyer, engineer, some professional. And my thoughts at the time were, yeah, that all sounds good, but I think I'll wait and see, if something develops and catches my interest. When I got to college, I put off declaring my major because I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I eventually went to one of the counselors that they offered, and they gave me a psychological evaluation test, and no, it wasn't that kind, to see where my interests were. I went back to the counselor later to discuss the results, and they told me that I could be an airplane pilot, I could be an Army drill sergeant, a research chemist, a librarian, or about any of a dozen other possible careers. It turned out my interests spanned just about every field of work. No one thing or one area stood out. That test was of no help to me. I felt a little bit like Dustin Hoffman's character in the movie The Graduate. You might remember that scene that's in the early part of the movie. Dustin Hoffman plays a character by the name of Benjamin Braddock. And he's fresh out of college, lounging in his parents' pool when his dad confronts him. And I'm going to play both parts here. Ben, what are you doing? Well, I would say that I'm just drifting in here in the pool. Why? Well, it's very comfortable just to drift here. Have you thought about graduate school? No. Would you mind telling me then what those 4 years of college were for? What was the point of all that hard work? You got me. Looking back at that time, I remember feeling very much like that. I was floating without a purpose, without direction. I was inwardly very stressful. What should I do? And boy, was that a loaded question, because it implies that there is a perfect path, a perfect decision to be made. If I could just identify what it is, the question, what should I do, is also externally focused. It's as if I'm going to be judged by others for making the appropriate decision in their eyes, instead of identifying what I want to do based on my own skill set, values, and objectives. It suggests that there is a single proper choice, a correct choice to be made. I think it's useful to recognize that no one deliberately makes a bad choice. We make choices based on the factors we were able to recognize that were relevant at the time. We don't have perfect knowledge. We make the best decision we can based on what we know. There are times and situations where there seems to be no obvious best choice. As an example, you might determine that options are either to choose path A or maybe to choose path B. But of course, we all know that there's also path C, which is to do nothing and just see how it turns out. Maybe it'll just work itself out without your own involvement, and you avoid the possibility of making the wrong decision. Almost always, it's a good idea to deliberately choose either path A or B in that scenario, rather than doing nothing. Taking action reaffirms your own participation and cooperation with your own life. It's taking responsibility. It's declaring your own power to influence what happens. Even if it turns out to be less than optimal outcome, it's still very beneficial to deliberately make a choice. Throughout life, we make many decisions. Not only what job should I take, but who should I marry? When should I retire? Should I buy this house? Perhaps the best thing to do to start any decision is identifying our purpose. I think of purpose as having two types. There is purpose with a lowercase p, and then there's purpose with a capital P. When we use the word purpose, it can be defined as the reason for doing something. That definition applies to purpose with a lowercase p. For convenience, I'll call that little p. Little p purpose applies to ordinary day-to-day decisions. My primary purpose of going to my job every day is to earn money. My purpose for buying a house is to provide shelter. My purpose is for going to the grocery store is to get food to eat for the next week. Purpose with a capital P is sometimes described as an overall aim when making decisions. Big P purpose expresses an intention. It is it is the answer to why do something. Little p purpose answers the question of what is the goal? Goals are identifiable objectives we attempt to achieve. Big P purpose is why we try to achieve those goals. To illustrate, I'd like to talk about Andre Agassi, the great tennis player. I'd like to quote a story that ran on NPR. In his autobiography, Agassi writes at one point that even though he was a world champion, he was desperately unhappy. In a 2017 article in The Guardian, he says, "Despite being good at it, I had a deep resentment of even hatred of tennis. I felt nothing. Every day is Groundhog Day. What's the point?" Even though Agassi was very successful and he had attained the status of being one of the best players in the world, he had come to hate tennis. But that's not the end of his story. When he realized his life felt empty, he decided to approach tennis differently. He realized that people were coming to watch him play, that he was giving others joy. He started to see himself as a role model. He described this new outlook this way: ownership means feeling grateful for being and having the chance to start over. Climbing out of that hole I had dug myself, that's when I started choosing to believe that each of us have a plan for our life, a purpose to fulfill, a body of work to create, a reason to be. So Agassi had achieved his goal of becoming a great tennis player. That was the what. But he felt empty. It was only when he identified the big P purpose did he realize a sense of fulfillment, the why. So let's talk a little bit more about this big P purpose. Earlier, I said big P purpose was an overall aim. A more complete description used by psychologists in this context is that purpose is a central, self-organizing life aim. It's considered central because it becomes a predominant theme of a person's identity. It becomes part of the description of how a person sees themselves. Second, it's self-organizing because it becomes part of the framework of how a person conducts their everyday life. The purpose becomes something of a guardrail that helps the person's goals be focused along with activities and decisions. And finally, it's a life aim because the purpose itself is not something that can be achieved. It is a target. It's not the goal. It is your intent. It is what you are shooting toward rather than what it is you hope to achieve. It's in front of you. It is oriented to the future. It can be the basis and influence for many decisions, not just one decision. The life aim remains and is still active even after individual goals are achieved. It provides a reason for continuing and participating to apply that life aim for additional decisions. Identifying a life purpose makes life easier because certain aspects of decision-making have already been decided. A decision is based on a life purpose allows the person to maintain an attitude of persistence to achieve their goals. They feel more dedicated to achieve their goals associated with that purpose. The closer the activity for a goal aligns with that life purpose, the more dedication is felt by the person to complete the activity. The closer the life purpose reflects values and interests of a person, the more likely it is the person is to extend greater effort over time. It becomes very personal. an internal benchmark for a person to dedicate themselves to it. It becomes something of a quest. When it is aligned with the values and interests of the person, it becomes an enjoyable quest, one that can invoke passion to continue it. In contrast, someone without a sense of purpose may feel isolated or lonely. A purpose contributes to our well-being. It helps us to face challenges that we all confront at different stages of our lives and helps provide stability in uncertain times. Having a life purpose can have an extremely strong effect. Some of you may have heard of Dr. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps in Auschwitz and elsewhere. He wrote of his experience in several books, including Man's Search for Meaning. And he reported that among his fellow captives in those concentration camps, those who were oriented toward a meaning to be fulfilled by them in the future were most likely to survive. It may have been that they wanted to see their family again. It may have been that some job or task that they felt they had been called to do was left undone. But their ability to connect continued living to that meaning gave them the strength and fortitude they needed to survive. So unless you just won the Powerball jackpot, we all have limited money, as well as time and energy to spend on life's activities. Having a purpose does not necessarily tell us what to do, but can provide a framework for making a decision about what goals to set for ourselves on how to use what money, time, and energy we do have. There is no single route to developing a purpose, but the common thread among all of them tends to be that the person is curious and exploratory in their nature. Someone who is a lifelong learner is usually someone who is open to expansion, and that expansion can include clarifying and strengthening pre-existing interests, the depth of their knowledge on that topic. It can also lead to the creation and broadening of interest into additional areas, the breadth of their knowledge. Overall, this expansion process can lead to interests and passions that encourage the development and persistence of a life purpose because they provide joy and meaning. Psychologists have identified three broad processes for the development of a purpose. And the first of these is proactive. And this involves effort over time, resulting in a purpose after gradual refinement and clarification. It might be that you have a hobby, something that you find yourself going back to over and over again when you have downtime. Now, it is true that many instances of exploration might be temporary. They don't hold the person's attention. However, the experiences that do hold a person's attention and do cause them to seek out additional related experiences may become influential. Through a sort of trial and error process, the experiences become relatable to the person. They start seeing them as being something that they can get themselves involved in. They see themselves doing it and in a greater way. They start involving themselves in that experience, and it becomes an avenue of expression of their own innermost values and interests. This usually comes from periods of deliberate, mindful reflection about those experiences. Over time, a person may start asking themselves, is this a pathway that I'm on? Is this my purpose? And it leads to greater things. The second possible process is reactive. And this usually involves some sort of life event where purpose arises and adds clarity to the person's life. Such life events might include near-death experiences, death or illness of a loved one, and the like. These are stressful events which may trigger a person to give high focus to that event and its meaning to them in terms of their own life priorities and purpose. In this way, it's very similar actually to the proactive process just described, but occurs in a more concentrated, shorter time frame because of the immediate impact of the life event. The third area psychologists have found is social learning. This involves formation of purpose through observation, imitation, and modeling. In this process, a person observes someone else whose actions demonstrate a purpose in life that seems desirable and beneficial, and we mimic them. A role model. All of us have come across that. A purpose may be difficult to form and may only come from a process involving great effort and gradual results. Having a life purpose and making decisions based on that life purpose can come into play when considering certain aspects of our spiritualist declaration of principles that we just read. As an example, in the 7th principle, we stated that moral responsibility, and we have our own, and we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. In other words, we have free will to make our own decisions in life, and we are responsible for those decisions. It does not mean that we need to fear making those decisions because we might make a so-called wrong one. In fact, realizing that we actually have influence and choice in life provides a reason to celebrate our ability to have that effect on our lives. We are not just tempest-tossed by external circumstances. We have the ability to contribute and control our own lives. We do not necessarily control the environment of what happens in our life, but we do get to decide how we react and respond to it. Having a purpose in life helps steady the ship. It helps us be consistent and feel strength in what we are attempting to do. We feel stronger for having knowledge of connection with a greater ideal and goal and purpose, a deliberate choice of following a greater purpose. In Principle 8, we state that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any human soul or here or hereafter. Even if we make a mistake, or rather when we do make a mistake, because of course we will, we can make changes. We can learn and correct the course and make future decisions based on what we've learned and experienced. We realize that making mistakes is part of the learning process and part of life. We can forgive ourselves and others when they happen, make corrections, and move on. In Principle 6, it states that the highest morality is contained in the Golden Rule. Whatsoever ye would that others should do unto you, do you also unto them. A corollary to that is that we want to treat others as they would like to be treated as well. In other words, we want to avoid crossing free will when dealing with other people. In this context, having free will is recognizing not only that we have the ability to make choices, but others also have that ability to make choices. Crossing free will happens when we do not take into account that what we do may be affecting or limiting someone else's choices. A quick example. Have you ever received a gift of a pet cat or a dog that you were not expecting to receive? I have. Maybe you accepted that gift in the vein it was intended. Somebody was trying to make you happy by giving you that animal. Or maybe that gift of an unwanted pet was an extra burden to take care of an animal you had not planned on having. That is crossing free will when that happens. We usually think of free will as making choices based on our own desires and goals, but it would probably be useful to be sure our life purpose recognizes not only our own free will, but the free will of others to make their own decisions. Finding your purpose is an internal process. Not many people can just sit down, write down a few ideas, and decide on a life purpose. For most of us, identifying our purpose happens over time. We gather ideas, insights about ourselves, identify desires and values, and we define our purpose. The closer that purpose ties into our values, the more likely it is to act as a source of strength during times of stress. Because we have an overriding purpose, current events tend to be seen in that context. They are just events on the way to performing our purpose. There may be meanderings and side trips, but our purpose helps us get back on track and stay on track. So a purpose has the characteristics of adding consistency and a degree of permanence. But over time, our purpose can also change from one thing to another. How do we know when our purpose is changing? When we decide to change it. When we decide it's time. It's an opportunity to allow tolerance and grace to yourself. It's a realization that what you thought was important at one point in your life is less important to you now. And the reverse can also be true. What was not important to you earlier may be very important to you now. This happens because our values change, our life experience and our reflection on that experience, and our knowledge increases. We change, we alter our perspective, we evolve. What does not change for those with a life purpose is the desire to be better, to improve. How can you know if someone you know has identified a life purpose? How do you recognize that aspect in them? The poet W.H. Auden has talked about that. He said, you need not see what someone is doing to know if it is his vocation. You only have to watch his eyes. A cook mixing a sauce, a surgeon making a primary incision, a clerk completing a bill of lading, wear the same rapt expression for getting themselves into a function. How beautiful it is, that eye on the subject look. Having a purpose can be a magical, empowering, comforting, reassuring, foundational, I wish I knew about this sooner kind of experience. It can take time, reflection, and a significant effort, but the benefits of identifying a life purpose are many. I hope all of you take a chance on developing your own life purpose and benefit from many of these aspects. Good luck and thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Jerry, for your words and for your meaningful perspectives on little p purpose and big P purpose. And I was able to say that without messing it up. So there's a lot of P's in there, but thank you for that, Reverend Jerry. During our musical interlude, we will be passing the collection basket. We thank you in advance for your generosity. And I'd now like to bring Jamie back for our musical interlude.
I went up to the mountain because you asked me to. Up over the clouds to where the sky was blue. I could see all around me, everywhere. I could see all around me, everywhere. Sometimes I feel like I ain't never been nothing but tired. And I'll be working till the day I expire. Sometimes I lay down. What more can I do? Then I go on again because you asked me to. Some days I look down, afraid I will fall. And though the sun is shining, I see nothing at all. Then I hear your sweet voice Coming and go, coming and go, telling me softly, you love me so. That peaceful valley, just over the mountain. That peaceful valley, we will come to know. Yes, we will someday get there. At the end of this lifetime. 'Cause sooner or later, it's there we will go. Yes, sooner or later, it's there we will go. Thank you, Spirit.
That was beautiful, Jamie. Thank you. Infinite Intelligence, we thank you for these general offerings this morning and ask that these gifts be returned tenfold. We ask that you guide our Board of Trustees and pastors as they utilize these offerings and all that is necessary and good in support of Southern Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp. Amen. And now for a few announcements. Next Wednesday, October 18th, our Wednesday night message service, message bearer, will be Pauline Gold. And then next Sunday, on October 22nd, our guest speaker at our 10:30 service will also be Pauline Gold. Every Sunday, we have Adult Lyceum, also known as Sunday School, from 9:30 to 10:15 a.m., just down the street in the Andrew Jackson Davis building where the bookstore is located. And next Sunday, October 22nd, our Lyceum speaker will be Robin Matutino. We have a few upcoming events to announce. Next Saturday, October 21st, Reverend Diane Davis is offering a workshop titled Inspirational Speaking Play from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in the Andrew Jackson Davis building. And this workshop is open to SCSC MA members only. And next Sunday, October 22nd, we will also have new member orientation. This will be session number 2. It will be in the Berkner building, which is across the street from the bookstore. If you're interested in becoming a new member, please join us. And you can join session number 2, even if you haven't completed session number 1. There are 3 sessions, but they do not need to be completed in order. To participate in absentee healing, please print the name and first initial of the last name of a loved one, or even a pet, in our healing book located in the left corner in the back of the temple. Every Thursday morning, we have our healing meditation circle at 11 a.m. in the Andrew Jackson Davis building, where all the names on our healing list are held in prayer. All are welcome to attend. Flyers for camp events are also located in the back of the temple. And we also have activities calendar and church bulletins in your hymnal. And these are for you to take home with you or give to a friend if you choose. Our website, cassadaga.org, also has the monthly information as well as upcoming events. Please stand as you are able now for our next hymn, number 171, Under the Guidance of Angels.
Under the guidance of angels, the past with its memories, or stepping stones in life. Under the guidance of angels, victory is sure to come. Turning toward my guidance, even one for me. Farewell to the creeds of the past, plastic moments I dream. To the truth of the soul plane, let us arise from the dead. Under the guidance of angels, victory is sure to come. Turning toward my guidance, evening will find me. Now with this new risen love, my innermost being tingles with hope and with love. Under the guidance of angels, victory is sure to come. Turning toward my guidance, evening will find me. Death and the grave seem a gateway, leading to golden. My struggle is so angels will carry me home. Under the guidance of angels, victory is sure to come. Turning toward my guidance, even will find me. Thank you. You may be seated.
All right, and now for the message portion of our service, I'd like to bring back Reverend Jerry Moore, who will be our message bearer this morning.
Thank you. Sit down a little bit. Where are we going to go? Can I come to you with the cap on? Hi. I hear the sound of your voice. Just hello or your first name. Thank you. So that's not the Mary Ann of Gilligan's Island, right? I was just checking. Let's see. As I touch in with you here, I feel like I'm dealing with a very confusing situation, a lot of chaos, a lot of potential turmoil, a little bit of lack of clarity about how this is all going to end up. And I feel like kind of above this are two people, and I feel like it's almost like your mother and your grandmother that are kind of watching this, and the feeling that you have with them relative to this is a feeling of maybe judgment, of that, I've got to handle this right, that I've got to handle this proper, I've got to handle this the way they would handle this. And they were very much like each other in the way they're being presented to me, in that your mother got her way of doing things from her mother, and she got it from her mother and its whole line of things. And they're presenting themselves in a way that I would describe as saying, we are the old guard, but you're the new guard. You aren't going to do this the way we would have done it. You aren't going to approach this situation the way we would have, because we were just following what was passed down to us as an approach method. You are very different than they are. So trying to compare yourself to them, trying to compare your way of handling things to them, is not necessarily appropriate for the current situation. And it's realizing it's going back to your own strengths and your own way of handling it is going to be just fine. This particular situation that's being shown here is it's going to be over. There are going to be a lot of pieces to pick up afterward. You know, it's not going to be without side effects that you'll have to deal with, but you will. And that's what they are trying to convey, and what they're showing me is you have the strength to deal with this. Number one, it's going to pass. It will end. This turmoil and agitation, and it's being shown to me as like a little twister, a little, not a hurricane, but a little tornado, and you'll get past it. And to have faith that you can handle it, because they have faith in you. I'll leave that with 11 blessings. Okay. Let's see. I come to the woman that has your hand up next to your neck there. Yeah. May I come to you? Okay. Thank you. As I touch in with you, I'm being shown this zebra, and it's like you're observing this zebra, which symbolically to me is another person who has some familiar characteristics, because the zebra is like a horse, but they also have certain aspects to them that are just black and white. And that's their outlook on the world. And it's really, it's like you're observing this person from a distance and questioning in your mind, how they got how they are, how they have these appealing aspects like a horse, this familiar aspect, but you don't know how to deal with them, or it's difficult to deal with them because of this absolute attitude that they have about certain things. Black and white, it's just this way, and it's not your way. And it's almost like a degree of fascination. They are so different from you in how they look at things. It's just a matter of, I wonder how they got that way. I wonder how they came to that. And it's almost like it's a matter of balance, of trying to understand the benefit of having that. What is the benefit to them of having that approach versus doing it another way? It's like a learning experience for you. Now, the interesting part about this is they are having the same experience looking at you, because you are so different than what they know. They are looking at you as just as odd and unusual, but interesting as you are finding them to be. And it's because both of you have the ability to, or are being charged or challenged to challenge what your thoughts are about someone in that opposite position. Both of you are somehow having that simultaneous realization. There's another way to look at it. There's another way to be. There's another way to look at things. And what is trying to understand the value of that to them, and what can I learn from this? It's a very positive thing, but it's really just a interesting thing to see in action. I feel like you're dealing with something where you wish the winds would be favorable, right? Favorable winds are blowing your way, and it's almost like, what is causing this? What is bringing this particular set of circumstances my way? I'm trying to understand it. Why is it going this particular pathway? Why am I kind of being pushed or nudged or moved in this particular way? And it's leading you to wonder about larger things. What is the larger context? And I'm seeing a circle of people around you who are it's hard to say. They're talking about your situation. I can't hear exactly what they're saying, but they're talking about your situation, and it's like, this is complicated. This is how do we nudge things, or how do we help here? They are there, they are paying attention, but they're also trying to understand what you want, and that hasn't been clarified yet. That's part of the equation. And that's what we're talking about before free will, right? It's about deciding what direction you want to go. You're feeling pushed, but you're not quite so sure that that's the way you want to go. And they can only do what they do. So it's up to you ultimately. So I'll leave that with love and blessings. I come to a lady with a pretty blouse on and glasses. Hi, how are you? And may I come to you? Thank you. You can probably tell I get a lot of sales here that come through, and I feel like you've gone through a decision process where you've tried a lot of different alternatives. It's like having a pad of paper in front of you and drawing something out. No, throw that out. You know, draw something out. No, throw that out. Draw something out. No, that's not right. That's not quite right. It's not quite right. It's not quite right. And it's frustrating. I feel like you're a very creative person. You're trying to look at this particular thing that's bothering you so much, and in different ways to get it right. And it's nothing seems to be covering all the bases. Nothing seems to be covering everything that you want to get accomplished in the result here. And it's being very frustrating with you. It's not because you aren't putting effort into it. It's just taking longer. The suggestion that is coming through is pause. You put so much focused time and effort on this, it's kind of put you into a rut of thinking. It's like you can't get out of this. You know, you can't see anything different than what you're already thinking about. So it's a matter of changing your focus of attention on something else. You know, not just take a rest, but focus your attention on some other project and come back to it, because that's how it's going to be able to, you're going to be able to see more options. I feel like I'm one of our spirit friends is coming in and they're showing me a pie, and they're saying, this is how she's going to know me, is this pie. And I think it's an apple pie. I have no idea. They're not showing themselves. They're just showing me the pie. So there you are. I'll just leave that with you. So I'll leave that with love and blessings. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Jerry, for the messages this morning. We'd like to remind everyone that we will have our afternoon message service from 12 until approximately 12:30 today, right here in Colby Temple. So you just have a few minutes for a break, and then please join us if you can. We'd love to see you here. A group of mediums and student mediums will be giving spirit greetings to as many individuals as they can reach in approximately 30 minutes. Everyone is welcome. We encourage you to visit our bookstore, which is open from 11:30 until 5 p.m. today, and is open Monday through Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Please rise as you are able for our closing hymn, number 203, Let There Be Peace on Earth, and remain standing for our closing prayer.
Let there be peace on earth, and let there be peace. Let there be peace on earth, peace on earth. And let peace begin with thee. Let peace be thy
Infinite Spirit, we thank you for bringing us here to Colby Temple today. And we thank you for the words of our speaker and the messages from the Spirit side of life that you have provided to us through him this morning. As we leave, please guide us through our travels and shine your light over us for the remainder of our day. Amen. Thank you for coming. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.